Unexpectedly, this man was kicked out of the house by his wife simply because he did not report a grocery expense of $47. It turned out that the wife's male best friend felt disrespected by this small action and threatened to slit his wrist to commit suicide. To appease the manipulative male lover, the wife ruthlessly forced her husband to leave with nothing but the clothes on his back. She even fed the male mistress soup, while her own son called the intruder Dad and threatened to punish his biological father. The husband lay in a cold rental apartment, remembering how he had forgiven this woman 9 times, but this time, his heart was completely dead. Thinking the husband had suffered enough, the arrogant wife called him to grant him permission to return. She smugly stated that the male mistress had forgiven him. However, the next second, a woman's voice came from the phone saying they were busy in bed, and then the call was disconnected. The wife was furious, smashed her phone, and immediately rushed to the hotel with her son and bodyguards to catch the cheater. When she saw her husband in a bathrobe, she assumed he had hired an actress to make her jealous. In an attempt to coax him back to be a free servant again, she knelt on the ground and presented a ring, admitting she was wrong but with a look of charity. She claimed this was the last time she would apologize. The ungrateful son also commanded his father to accept it, saying he only bought these gifts to apologize to the male mistress on the father's behalf. While the mother and son chanted for forgiveness, the male mistress ran out to act pitiful again. But the husband looked at the 3 clowns with pure disgust. He coldly rejected the ring, telling them he was done being their doormat. Just as the wife was confused, a beautiful CEO walked out of the room and threw herself into the husband's arms. She asked if he missed her after being apart for just a few hours. The wife was stunned to see her husband holding another woman so intimately. The CEO casually mentioned she had hung up on a rude woman earlier, and the husband did not even flinch. Ignoring his ex-wife's shock, the husband turned around and left with the billionaire heiress, leaving his regretful ex-wife and ungrateful son standing in the wind, completely humiliated. The woman publicly humiliated her ex-husband by bidding on his deceased father's only keepsake, intending to give it to her male mistress as a mere accessory. Just moments before, the husband had discovered that the watch he pawned years ago to fund this ungrateful woman's business had finally resurfaced at an auction. His new billionaire girlfriend promised to help him reclaim it, but the ex-wife was already plotting her next move. When the husband arrived at the venue, the male mistress immediately launched a verbal assault, mocking him as a discarded dog who should still be serving them. The husband finally snapped and shoved the arrogance out of the man, but the male mistress threw himself to the ground in a pathetic display of acting. Blind to the truth, the ex-wife rushed to comfort the schemer and viciously scolded the husband, demanding he apologize for hurting her precious boy. She completely ignored the fact that they were already divorced and he owed her nothing. As the auction began, the husband tried to buy back his father's watch with his limited funds, hoping the woman would remember her promise to help him redeem it. Instead, the male mistress whispered that he liked the watch and wanted to wear it for a few days to show off. To everyone's shock, the woman ignored her ex-husband's desperate pleas and the fact that he had sacrificed everything for her success. She ruthlessly raised her paddle to outbid him, proving once and for all that in her heart, the dignity of her ex-husband was worth less than a moment of vanity for her lover. The humiliation peaked when the male mistress projected the husband's photo on the big screen, attempting to auction him off as a domestic servant to the crowd. Pushed beyond his limits, the husband finally exploded and shoved the schemer to the ground. As the wife screamed in defense of her lover, the husband stared her down, declaring that neither she nor her money had the qualification to threaten him anymore. The woman in the silver dress slapped the man on the floor, but then arrogantly demanded her ex-husband apologize to her lover. She thought he was still desperate to remarry her after their 3rd divorce, but the CEO coldly declared that he did not love her anymore and walked away. Panic ensued as her lover ordered thugs to capture the CEO for a wealthy old woman, but suddenly a mysterious beauty in a maroon suit descended the stairs with a team of bodyguards. When the lover tried to attack her, he was instantly humiliated by her security team, and the old woman ended up striking her own ally in the chaos. The ex-wife sneered, claiming the beauty was just a paid actress hired to make her jealous, but the CEO instantly held the girl's hand and announced she was his lawful wife. Just then, the venue manager rushed over and bowed to the girl, revealing she was actually the billionaire owner of the auction house. Everyone was stunned as the guards surrounded the ex-wife, and the new wife coldly asked how she should punish the woman who dared to insult her husband. The woman never expected that the man she betrayed her husband for would kneel like a dog and frame her in public just to save his own skin. When the billionaire CEO cornered them, the cowardly boyfriend instantly pointed at her, claiming she was the mastermind behind everything and calling her dirty trash. The woman was completely shocked, finally realizing that the man she treated as a brother was actually a heartless scumbag. She turned to the CEO, who was actually her ex-husband, and grabbed his arm, crying that she still loved him and begging for forgiveness. But the CEO ruthlessly shook her off. He coldly told her that his love died the moment she kicked him out of the house for this stranger. To humiliate her further, he agreed to marry the wealthy heiress standing beside him right then and there, leaving the woman devastated. Heartbroken, she returned to her villa, hoping to find comfort in her son, but unexpectedly, the boy pushed her away in disgust. He shouted that he only wanted his godfather and hated his biological dad, revealing that the scumbag had been brainwashing the child for years. Seeing their old family photo in the trash, The woman remembered how her husband used to wear an apron and serve them like a servant every day. She collapsed on the floor in regret, realizing she had destroyed her own happiness, but just then, a familiar figure suddenly appeared at the door. The shameless woman threw herself into her ex-husband's arms, convinced he was still obsessed with her, but he coldly pushed her away and stared at her with total disgust. She had no idea that her current lover had just been brutally beaten by bodyguards for offending a powerful family, only surviving because the mysterious Miss Shah did not want blood spilled before her wedding. Delusional and desperate to climb the social ladder, the couple rushed to the Shia group headquarters, hoping to beg for the chance to organize the heiress's wedding. However, when they arrived at the lobby, they were shocked to find the ex-husband already there, carrying a lunchbox. The arrogant lover immediately mocked him, accusing him of trying to curry favor with the wealthy family, but when he tried to intimidate the man, the ex-husband brushed him off like dirt and pushed him to the ground. The woman rushed to her lover's side, screaming at her ex-husband and shamelessly justifying her infidelity by claiming she needed a shoulder to lean on when she was lonely. The man finally snapped, declaring that his only mistake was wasting his money and youth on such an ungrateful woman, and that she meant absolutely nothing to him now. While they humiliated him in the lobby, they were completely unaware that the billionaire Miss Shah they were desperate to meet was actually sitting in a board meeting upstairs, texting this very man and calling him hubby because she was hungry. Bored with her executives, the heiress dismissed the meeting early and headed downstairs to protect her husband, setting the stage for a brutal face slap. She remembered how, years ago, while her husband drank himself to stomach bleeding to secure funding, she was busy flirting with her lover at afternoon tea, ignoring his calls for help. But the drama was not over. The lover, still arrogant and blind, mocked the ex-husband for carrying a cheap lunchbox and knocked it to the ground, sneering that a loser like him was not fit to be in such a high-class place. He proudly announced that he was there to meet the mysterious Shah heiress and organize her wedding, unaware that the powerful woman he was trying to impress was standing right in front of him, watching him perform like a clown. When the heiress stepped forward to defend her fiancé, the fool actually threatened her, warning her not to offend the Shia family, completely sealing his own doom. The rich heir commanded his thugs to beat the poor man to a pulp, but the man's ex-wife just stood there and laughed, mocking him for being a useless failure who should kneel and beg for mercy. She arrogantly showed off her new boyfriend, bragging that they were about to organize a billion-dollar wedding for the mysterious Miss Shah, a project that would make them famous. Unexpectedly, the corporate secretary arrived and played along with their delusion, even though she was secretly taking orders from the poor man, who was actually the hidden husband of Miss Shah. It turned out the man had been living a low-key life, but his new wife promised to reveal his true status at the ceremony to punish those who looked down on him. When the wedding day arrived, the ex-wife and the rich heir were shocked to see the poor man walk into the banquet hall, and they immediately rushed over to humiliate him, calling him a stalker who could not let go of the past. They demanded he leave before he embarrassed himself, completely unaware that he was not there to beg for forgiveness, but was the groom they had been waiting for all along.